Hello, I'm Sensei Paul Green, and I appreciate you being here today. I hope you're having a good day. Um, I had something that I want to speak with you about, something that I feel is really important that doesn't, get talked about enough. Usually, it doesn't get talked about at all, and when it does get talked about, it's at high levels, high ranks where people that really need the access to it early don't get it. Um, and that thing is duality, or the relationship between certain things. You can look at it as yeah, as an example of yin and yang, or in Japanese martial arts, it would be yin and yo. But I have a specific example of it that I want to speak to you about, and that's the relationship that you see in martial arts today, where you have like the warrior side, and then on the other side you have the whole thing with improving character and like the self improvement aspects. And it's a little out of balance, or it can get out of balance uh, at certain times, and it's something you have to keep an eye on because if you don't, your students get cheated. Now, a lot of times in martial arts, as I mentioned, this gets talked about, at high levels, and that seems to be, the traditional way of doing it. And there was a meme a while back that I saw that actually, made that point very well. It was a picture of the running of the bulls in Pamplona, Spain, and under it, it said that just because it's always been done a certain way doesn't mean it's not stupid. And in this particular example, I would have to agree with that. Um, you also have a lot of martial intellectuals, which isn't a good thing. Um, I prefer to be a martial artist. And the definition that I use for that comes from existentialist writer Charles Bukowski. Um, Years ago, he made a statement that an intellectual is somebody that takes something simple and makes it seem harder so that only a select few can enjoy it and benefit from it. But an artist is the exact opposite. An artist takes something that might be hard to understand and makes it simple so that the world can benefit from it. And what we see happening with martial arts, it's not exclusive to martial arts. It also affects, the entire world. And, our society right now is in a lot of trouble because of it. Now, when I say what I'm about to say, it may throw you off, but I'm going to work my way back around. So I'd ask that you stick with me and don't, throw something at your PC right off the bat, because I'm going to work back around. Um, I ask people, sometimes, what is the purpose of martial arts? Is it A, to beat up a bunch of people? Is it B, to improve your character and self perfection? Is it C, like physical fitness? Well, if it's done right, it can be all three and it's kept in balance. But if you had to pick one of the three, it's going to be A, beating up a bunch of people. That's where it's got to start. And I don't really mean beating up a bunch of people, of course. That's, kind of lighthearted. But the warrior part has to come first. Um, the reason the warrior part has to come first is because that's where your adversity is. You see, as people, a lot of times the vision that we have of ourselves and the reality of who we actually are not the same thing. They don't match. Um, True self improvement, comes from knowing who you are, knowing what your limits are, and doing that head work and taking time and looking in the mirror, and then you have a foundation to build on. You can't improve the self if you don't really know what the self is because you don't have a starting point. You don't have a baseline. Um, and that's the problem. One kind of feeds into the other. Um, so anyway, Um, it's a Saturday. If I look like I just rolled up out of the woods to do this, it's because I just rolled up out of the woods to do this. So there you go. But that's the issue. That we deal with when you challenge your students, even if they fail. Talk to them about it. Make sure that they learn something from it. Your failures can be the doorways to your greatest successes if you know, build on them. Um, when you have a dojo that all they focus on is like the character building and the physical fitness, and everybody has fun and everything else, which it should all be fun anyway. But that can build confidence, but confidence in what? And what it boils down to is it's kind of a fake empowerment, because the people that move up that way, in the ranks, they just learn their techniques and they move up, and they feel great and everything. That's good. You want people to feel great, but they haven't done the head work. They haven't challenged themselves. They don't know what their limits are, and this could be very damaging in their development. I mean, today in society, we don't have enough adversity. We don't look in the mirror. Everything that happens is somebody else's fault, and everybody gets to be a victim. And in colleges, people have their safe spaces where they don't have to be challenged, and everybody just looks, for validation. They don't look for the actual truth of a situation, and that's what it is. When you don't have a warrior part, and you're just doing a class that's all about building confidence and that type of a thing, and it's just that and nothing else. It's really just validation, not character building, not real empowerment. Um, there's a lot of places, and I used to not like the idea, but over time I grew to understand it, and now I do. Where they have, like, their black belt test, for example, is like a rite of passage. Um, I'll give you an example. In 2003, I did a black belt test in ninjutsu, where I was going up for my shodan. And I mean, I'd done some things before then. I'd won like a state title and that type of a thing in open grappling, but I still wasn't there mentally. I'd had some abusive instructors. I was always a tough kid, but I never had any confidence. I was never empowered. So, I was bullied and all that other kind of thing, like, a lot of kids are. Um, it wasn't until, I gained, my confidence later, that it helped, make me who I am. And that test played a big part in it. Um, that test was tough, but it was something that I really, really wanted. And I said to myself before this, no matter what happens, you can't fail. Failure's not an option. And this was a test that was like 72 hours of sleep deprivation. Um, at one point, I had to like stand in a horse stance and hold like a broom handle, like at one side, where the instructor walked around and beat me with a shinai. It was supposed to last 3 minutes. He ended up breaking it over my leg and didn't have another one. So it ended early. There was a point where I was led out back somewhere, and of course I had people watching me, so it would be supposedly safe. And I was blindfolded and led over, certain obstacles. One of them was a dumpster that had a plastic roof on it, but it had a crack in it, and it was dark, and they didn't know it, so I actually fell through that and banged my hip on the left side where the opening of the dumpster is. When I was getting up on it, woke up for the third day of the test, couldn't, barely move my left leg. I dislocated my shoulder 2 days before it. I still had to do multiple attacker scenarios. Um, and, I wouldn't suggest doing something that brutal. I mean, that's, a little overkill. But it affected me in a very positive way because I was challenged and I found out who I was. I passed the test. Was the first person in the history of that organization to do it. When I didn't know that to the end of the test, when I got it, the serial number on my black belt certificate was one. There had been people that had tried to do it through Skype and stuff like that, like in Europe, and had flunked it, and a lot of people had flunked out. But so that's something I'm very proud of. I got promoted to higher ranks after that, but that Shodan certificate is the one that I have on my wall. There's a reason for it. Um, and like I said, I wouldn't say, do anything that tough, but, you need to challenge your students because they need to feel that adversity, because they need to understand where they are so that they can look in the mirror and, see themselves as they are. And only then can you build, because then you see this is where I am, this is where I want to be, and then you create a path to get to it. And I think that's just really, really important. So that's, you know, one of the things that I would say, like that relationship. Now, where it feeds back into it, when you're confident, it helps you in your martial arts because now it keeps you from being indecisive. When you look at things like people, punch too slow or that type of thing, a lot of that's caused by hesitation, which is caused, by doubt. And when you remove that doubt, and when you're not indecisive anymore, you can accomplish more things. Um, Even if it's the wrong thing, you know how to get out of it. So you can still benefit that way. But you know, this is something that they, they teach you like higher black belt levels, but really you should know it by white belt. You should know this at white belt. That gives you the path. You can put, your students can push themselves. They can put themselves into it, put everything into it. By the time that they're black belts, hopefully they've done that head work, and then at black belt, which is really the beginning. A lot of people don't understand that, but black belt is the beginning, and then you can start to build and be the best you that you can be. But they always talk about martial arts as a journey. Well, this could be your journey of self discovery, and that can move right along with it. So the warrior part should come first, but that feeds the other parts, and then the other parts later feed back into it. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about, and I think that's really important. So please don't cheat your students. Um, Thank you for your time. I hope you have a great day, and hopefully I'll see you for some other videos at another time. Thank you.